Hello. Today we are going to learn all about significant figures. As with any video we watch, if you are unsure on something, seeing as how it's a video, you can stop it and rewind it and watch just the part that confused you and really watch it as many times as you need to. And the opposite is true as well. If you need to fast forward the video because you know what we're doing or you know where I'm going with it, then feel free to do that as well. So with significant figures, we have three objectives for this lesson. We're going to learn how to be able to count how many significant figures. We're going to learn how to multiply and divide with significant figures. And then lastly, we'll learn how to round to the proper number of significant figures. And that may be something you need to watch, and it might be something you don't need to watch. You will be able to determine that yourself. So first, significant figures. It's easiest always to learn through examples. So if you see, we have two numbers here, and if we look at these two numbers, one has a decimal spot and the other one doesn't have a decimal spot. And that really is the key to counting significant figures. So let's start with this example here. Over here I have some rules that I am going to follow along with to determine how many significant figures there are. But up here, let's look at the map of the United States first. If the decimal spot is present, we are going to start counting numbers at the Pacific Ocean and work our way over to the Atlantic. So basically, we're going to work our way from left to right. All right, so our decimal spot is present. So we're going to start counting at the Pacific and read the number from left to right. We're not going to count leading zeros, so we're not going to count that number. And we will start counting all digits starting with the first non-zero digit. So 3 is our first non-zero digit, so we're going to count that one, and we're going to count the rest of the numbers as we work our way right until we've run out of numbers. So we have 1, 2, 3 significant figures in that example. If the decimal spot is absent, we go up to our map of the United States again, and we are going to start counting at the Atlantic and work our way over to the Pacific. So in that case, we're going to count in the opposite direction. We are going to count from right to left when the decimal spot is absent. So down here we have our set of rules again. The number 11,600 milliliters. There's no decimal spot present, so we're going to start counting at the right and work our way left. Once again, we're not going to count leading zeros, so that zero doesn't count. That zero doesn't count. And then we are going to start counting all of the digits, starting with the first non-zero digit. So we have 1, 2, 3 significant digits. And that's how you count significant figures, whether there's a decimal spot present or whether there's a decimal spot absent. So next, clear that screen. Next, we're going to learn how to do some multiplication and division with significant figures. First step, do the math as written. So we have 50 grams divided by 10 milliliters. So that's simply 50 divided by 10 equals 5. Nothing changes there. Then we need to look at the two numbers, or if there's more than two numbers, however many numbers you are doing the math with. In this case, we just have 2. So we'll look at both of those numbers and find the number that had the smallest number of significant figures. So for this one, there's a decimal spot present, so we're going to start at the Pacific and count our way over to the Atlantic. The first number present is a non-zero digit, so we're going to start counting at that 5 and count the rest of the digits. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we happen to have 5 significant digits over there. The other number also has a decimal spot present, so we will count from left to right again and work our way over the Atlantic. non-zero digit starting out with, so we'll count all of those numbers. 1, 2, 3. 3 significant digits. So now we know that this number has the fewest number of significant digits, or significant figures. They're the same thing. And we need to, looking at rule 3, we need to round our answer to the number that has the fewest number of significant figures. So we need to write 5 out with 3 significant figures. Right now, looking at it, there's only one number, so it really just has one significant figure. So we need to write 5, decimal spot, 0, 0. And then you can check your work. The decimal spot is present, so you would count significant figures in this direction. And you'd have 1, 2, 3 significant figures. So your answer would be 5.00, and then the units would be grams over milliliters, which is a unit of density. All right, lastly, just a little bit of practice of rounding with significant figures, because quite often when you're doing math, you end up with this number and it has more digits than what really are significant, so you end up needing to round the number. So a few examples. Actually, they're all the same example. We have 110.212. If we want to round that to 4 significant figures, counting from left to right, 1, 2, 3, 4, that's the last digit that can exist, because right now this number has 6 significant digits, so we need to get rid of those 2. So now it's just simply a matter of rounding. We want that place to stay. Whether we round up or round down depends on this digit. So this is a 1, so following the rules of rounding, 5 and lower will round down. So the number becomes 110.2, and we round down, and we end up just rounding that to 110.2, All right, same number, rounding to 3 significant digits, 1, 2, 3. Now we need to get rid of all of these digits. This number, 2, is less than 5 once again, so we're going to round down. And ultimately, we are going to write this as 110 decimal spots, and that would have 3 significant figures. Last one is the tricky one. We want 2 significant figures. So 1, 2, we need to round in the tens place and get rid of these 4 digits. Now, a common thing, what people want to do is just write that, because that follows the previous 2 examples. However, if we look, 11 is a very different number than 110. You can't get rid of this ones place. It's a placeholder. When there are decimal points present, it doesn't really matter. It's not, you can eliminate those digits and it's not changing this value of the number. But if we eliminate this 3rd spot, it's changing it from 110 to 11, which is very, very different. So we need to write 110 with no decimal spot, because if the decimal spot's not present, we're going to start at the Atlantic when the decimal spot's absent, I should say, and count in that direction to count significant figures. So this 0 doesn't count. It's a leading 0, and we start counting with the first non-zero digit, 1, 2 significant figures, versus this one, the decimal spot is present, so we count in that direction, and we'd have 1, 2, 3 significant digits. So that is rounding with significant figures. And just as a reminder, if you need to rewatch any portion of the video, you don't have to listen to me from the beginning. Just fast forward to the portion that you're interested in. All right, thanks.